Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a simple truth. You cannot grow wiser without first falling short. We live in a world that often condemns mistakes, labels them as failures, and shames those who make them. But in reality, mistakes are some of life's greatest teachers. Every time you slip, every time you stumble, there's a message waiting to be decoded, a lesson hidden in the error. You see, growth is not linear, and success doesn't come from getting everything right the first time. Success comes from being willing to get it wrong, and then having the humility to ask, what can I learn from this? Every mistake gives you feedback. It tells you what doesn't work. It shows you what must change, not just in your method, but in your mindset. You don't become wise by avoiding mistakes. You become wise by learning through them. Let me tell you something educational. The brain grows through error detection. Neuroscience shows that when you make a mistake, your brain lights up. It tries to correct the path. That's how habits are refined. That's how wisdom is built, not by perfection, but by progression. So don't fear making mistakes. Fear standing still. Fear being so afraid of failing that you never try. Because the person who never makes a mistake never learns. And the person who never learns never grows. Mistakes are not the opposite of success. They are part of success. They develop your patience. They test your character. They build your emotional resilience. They show you where your blind spots are. And the moment you take responsibility for your errors without excuses is the moment you gain access to real power. The power of awareness, reflection, and refinement. Let your mistakes humble you, not humiliate you. Let them teach you, not torment you, because every mistake, when properly processed, becomes a stepping stone toward wisdom. So the next time you mess up, don't beat yourself down. Sit with it. Learn from it. Write it down. Adjust your strategy and step forward again. This time, not just older, but wiser. Because life isn't asking for your perfection. Life is asking for your growth. You can't master anything without first misunderstanding it. That's the foundational truth when it comes to learning, growing, and evolving. Mistakes are not optional on the path to mastery. They are necessary. They're not side roads that distract you from your destination. In many ways, they are the road. Every person who has ever achieved greatness in any area of life, whether in leadership, science, business, relationships, or faith, has traveled through a path paved with errors, missteps, and sometimes outright failures. Consider a child learning how to walk. The child stumbles, falls, bumps into furniture, and cries. But what happens next? The child tries again. Why? Because instinctively they understand that falling is part of walking. It's not a sign to stop. It's a sign to keep learning. As adults, we sometimes forget this truth. We grow afraid of mistakes. We fear looking foolish, being judged, or feeling inadequate. But fear of mistakes is often the very thing that keeps people stuck where they are. Learning requires friction. It requires trial, and it certainly requires failure. When you misunderstand a concept and then wrestle to understand it, the struggle itself carves deeper learning into your mind. When you try to build something and it collapses, you're not starting over from zero. You're starting over from experience. That experience has taught you something valuable. What doesn't work, and knowing what doesn't work is one step closer to discovering what does. Every skill you now take for granted reading, writing, speaking, decision-making, even managing your emotions, was once unfamiliar to you. You learned those things through trial and error. You said the wrong thing. You acted impulsively. You misunderstood instructions. And over time, through reflection, feedback, and intentional practice, you got better. The same principle applies to everything in life. Whether you're learning to build a business, lead a family, deepen your faith, or simply become a more disciplined version of yourself, mistakes are part of the curriculum. The problem isn't making mistakes. The problem is not learning from them. When people make the same mistake repeatedly without stopping to reflect, they aren't growing. They're simply reliving the same lesson. But when you pause, reflect, take responsibility, and ask the right questions, what went wrong? What can I do differently? What have I learned? You transform your experience into education. That is how wisdom is born. Some of the most powerful lessons in life don't come from books or lectures. They come from moments that humble you. They come from decisions that didn't go as planned, from conversations you wish you had handled differently, from opportunities you missed because you were unprepared. But when you reflect on those moments and choose not to run from them, you unlock their hidden wisdom. You realize that the mistake wasn't a dead end, it was a redirection. The truth is, nobody ever becomes great by getting everything right the first time. Greatness is forged in fire, in the refining process of repeated attempts, small wins, painful losses, and hard-earned insights. The goal is not to avoid mistakes at all costs. The goal is to respond to them in a way that brings you one step closer to becoming who you're capable of being. So the next time you make a mistake, don't waste it, don't bury it, don't excuse it. Study it, embrace it, learn from it, because in that mistake is a seed, one that if nurtured properly will grow into understanding, maturity, and wisdom. And that wisdom, unlike quick success or superficial progress, will serve you for a lifetime. Failure is feedback. It is not a final verdict on your ability, your intelligence, or your potential. It is information. It's life's way of pointing something out to you, showing you where an adjustment is needed, where a gap exists, where growth must take place. Too often, people interpret failure as a sign that they are not enough, that they should quit, back down, or never try again. But in reality, failure is one of the most direct and honest forms of feedback you will ever receive. It does not sugarcoat, it does not flatter, it simply reveals what is and what isn't. Imagine you're trying to master a new skill. Public speaking, for example. You get on stage and forget your lines. The audience seems disengaged. Your voice trembles. You walk away feeling like you failed. But did you really fail? Or did you just receive an incredible amount of useful data? You learned that you need to rehearse more, that your delivery could use more confidence, that you might need to work on engaging the audience. All of that is feedback, and it's priceless. People who succeed consistently are not the ones who avoid failure. They are the ones who learn from it. They treat every outcome as a source of insight. If something goes wrong, they don't emotionally collapse. They analyze, they investigate, they ask, what can I extract from this moment that will help me do better next time? This mindset transforms every setback into a stepping stone. It turns what looks like loss into gain. Feedback is essential because it reveals the truth. When we rely only on our own assumptions, we risk getting stuck in delusion. We think our plan will work, our idea is perfect, our delivery is excellent, until we test it in real life and it falls short. That shortfall is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be curious about. It is saying, here's a part of your process that needs attention. Here's something you didn't see before. In that sense, failure becomes one of your greatest teachers. More honest than praise, more helpful than flattery. Even in relationships, failure gives feedback. If a friendship ends, if trust is broken, or if communication falls apart, that experience is rich with messages about human behavior, emotional maturity, and the importance of boundaries. If you're willing to reflect deeply, those lessons will follow you into future relationships and make you wiser. But if you run from the discomfort of failure, you miss the wisdom it carries. Feedback through failure also builds self-awareness. It teaches you your limits, your habits under pressure, your blind spots, and your triggers. The more you fail and pay attention, the more you begin to understand yourself. You start to recognize patterns, make intentional changes, and approach situations with greater clarity and confidence. And the more aware you become, the more equipped you are to succeed not just once, but repeatedly. Failure as feedback is a gift, but it only benefits those who are humble enough to receive it. If your ego is too fragile, you'll reject the lesson. You'll blame others, deny responsibility, or give up entirely. But if you're committed to growth, you'll lean into the feedback, not away from it. You'll allow failure to shape you rather than shame you. So when failure arrives, and it will, don't waste time resisting it. Welcome it. Let it speak. Ask it questions. Study its message. And use that message to refine your next attempt. Because feedback is the roadmap to mastery, and failure is simply one of its most honest messengers. Growth doesn't happen automatically. It requires intention, effort, and often a fair amount of discomfort. One of the most powerful catalysts for real growth is failure. When you experience a setback, it shakes you out of complacency. It disrupts your comfort zone. It brings to the surface areas of weakness, patterns that don't serve you, and assumptions that may no longer be true. This disruption, while painful in the moment, creates space for something new to develop. Without it, we tend to repeat the same routines, settle for what's familiar, and resist the deeper transformation that personal growth demands. Think of a seed planted in the ground. It has to break through its shell before it can become a plant. That breaking is uncomfortable, but it's essential. In the same way, when you face failure, something in you is being broken open. Your pride, your expectations, your limited understanding. And while it hurts, it's also creating room for expansion. It's showing you where you can evolve, where you need to let go of outdated mindsets, and where a new level of strength can be formed. It's in this tension between who you are and who you're becoming that real growth takes place. Many people avoid challenges because they don't want to risk failing. But what they're really avoiding is growth. They're choosing the illusion of safety over the possibility of transformation. And the truth is, you can't grow stronger, wiser, or more capable without testing your limits. It's in the stretch that muscles develop. It's in the pressure that diamonds are formed. It's in the discomfort of failure that new capacities emerge. When you fail at something meaningful, whether it's a business venture, a relationship, a goal you've been pursuing, you're given a choice. You can retreat and protect your ego, or you can lean in and ask, what can I learn from this? That question alone signals the beginning of growth. It tells your mind that the experience, no matter how disappointing, still holds value. And when you start to treat your failures as teachers rather than enemies, you begin to change. You begin to rise. Growth through failure is not just about gaining new skills or strategies. It's about developing character. It's about becoming more resilient, more patient, more self-aware. You learn how to navigate disappointment without losing your vision. You learn how to take responsibility without spiraling into shame. You learn how to start again, not from scratch, but from experience. Each time you rise after falling, you build a kind of inner strength that can't be taught in theory. It must be lived. There's also a deeper wisdom that comes from failing and growing through it. You start to recognize that life isn't just about outcomes. It's about the person you become in the process. Success achieved without failure often breeds entitlement. But success achieved through failure breeds humility and gratitude. You don't just appreciate the result, you value the journey that shaped you along the way. And this growth doesn't stop with you. The wisdom you gain from your experiences equips you to help others. You can encourage someone else who is struggling because you've been there. You can guide, mentor, and support others, not just with knowledge, but with empathy. That's the kind of growth that multiplies. It turns personal failure into collective benefit. So the next time failure knocks on your door, don't just see it as a loss. See it as a signal that you are on the edge of something new, a signal that there's more within you to discover. Embrace the stretch, endure the discomfort, and trust the process. Because failure, when handled with intention, is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your transformation. Wisdom is not something you stumble upon by accident. It is earned. It is shaped through time, through experience, and often through failure. Every mistake you make carries within it a lesson. And if you're willing to listen, to reflect, and to apply what you learn, those lessons accumulate into something far more valuable than mere knowledge. They become wisdom. Mistakes, therefore, are not simply errors or missteps. They are opportunities in disguise. They are life's way of asking, are you paying attention? Are you ready to grow? When you touch a hot stove as a child, you don't just feel pain. You learn. You learn not to touch it again. That's the beginning of wisdom. Now, as adults, our mistakes may be more complex, choosing the wrong partner, making a poor financial decision, trusting the wrong people, or letting fear control our choices. But the principle remains the same. Pain leads to awareness, and awareness, when combined with reflection, becomes wisdom. Each mistake highlights something we didn't understand or overlooked. It opens our eyes to blind spots and helps us make more informed decisions in the future. What separates wise individuals from everyone else is not that they never fail, but that they mine their failures for meaning. They don't just move on quickly or ignore the discomfort. They sit with it. They ask questions like, what did I miss? Or what was I meant to see that I ignored? This kind of thinking turns a painful moment into a transformational one. Mistakes are not wasted in the hands of someone who is determined to learn. In fact, the greater the mistake, the deeper the wisdom it can yield, if we're humble enough to extract it. Wisdom that comes through mistakes also has a depth that theory never provides. You can read books and attend lectures, but nothing will teach you more about resilience than failing publicly and having to rebuild your confidence. Nothing will teach you more about humility than being wrong when you were so sure you were right. These experiences break down your ego and build up your insight. They make you more cautious in a good way, not fearful, but discerning. You become more thoughtful with your words, more measured with your actions, and more intentional in your relationship. The wisdom you gain through mistakes teaches you empathy. When you've fallen short, when you've messed up, you stop judging others so quickly. You understand that people are doing the best they can with the understanding they have at the time, just like you were. This kind of compassion is only possible when you've lived through your own learning curve. It allows you to encourage others, not from a place of superiority, but from shared humanity. Mistakes also train your instincts. After failing enough times, you start to sense things before they happen. You notice red flags sooner. You feel when something is off. That's not paranoia, it's wisdom speaking. It's your past teaching your present how to protect your future. You begin to trust your inner voice more because you've seen where ignoring it has led you before. The path to wisdom is not paved with perfection. It's filled with missed turns, hard lessons, and moments of deep regret. But these moments, if you allow them, will sharpen you. They will elevate your thinking. They will help you see life not as a set of problems to avoid, but as a series of lessons to embrace. Wisdom isn't given, it's built. And the raw material it's built from is often failure. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Be afraid of not learning from them. Because every time you reflect, every time you adjust, and every time you grow wiser from what went wrong, you are stepping into the person you were always meant to become. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey toward it. Often we are conditioned to believe that failure is shameful, that it signifies inadequacy, or that it should be avoided at all costs. But in reality, failure is one of life's most honest and effective teachers. The setbacks, the losses, the missteps, all of them carry lessons that success simply cannot teach. When you fail, life is offering you a feedback loop. It's saying, this method didn't work, try another way. And if you listen, adapt, and keep moving forward, those failures start building a staircase to your success. There's a principle in education known as experiential learning, the idea that people learn best through experience, especially when they actively reflect on those experiences. Failure is experiential learning at its finest. It exposes your weak spots, your overconfidence, your lack of preparation, or even your misunderstanding of a situation. That kind of exposure isn't pleasant, but it's incredibly powerful. Because once you know what's not working, you're better equipped to find what does. It sharpens your thinking, realigns your focus, and strengthens your resolve. Some of the world's most successful individuals have built their careers on a foundation of failure. Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." He understood that each failure brought him closer to the solution. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job for lacking imagination. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television. These examples aren't meant to romanticize failure, but to emphasize that failure, when met with resilience, creates depth. It builds character. It cultivates a mindset that is rooted in growth rather than defeat. Each failure provides insight into your behavior, your choices, and your strategies. Maybe you rushed the process. Maybe you underestimated the challenge. Maybe you didn't seek guidance when you should have. These realizations are not reasons to quit. They're signposts pointing you toward refinement. And the more willing you are to face these truths, the stronger and smarter you become. Success that's built on this kind of foundation is not fragile. It's not easily shaken because it's been through the fire and come out purified. Failure also teaches humility. It reminds you that no matter how skilled or talented you are, you still have room to grow. That humility keeps you teachable, and being teachable is one of the greatest strengths a person can have. It opens the door to mentors, to collaboration, and to continuous improvement. A person who refuses to acknowledge failure is closing themselves off from transformation. But a person who embraces it is constantly evolving. What's most important is how you interpret your failures. If you see them as evidence that you're not good enough, you'll begin to doubt your potential. But if you see them as part of your education, as vital components of your journey, then they become stepping stones. You start to understand that the road to success is not a straight line, It's filled with detours, wrong turns, and lessons you didn't know you needed. And yet every one of those moments is shaping you into someone capable of handling the success you're striving for. So don't fear failure. Learn from it. Let it stretch you, challenge you, and teach you. Let it strip away your ego so you can become more focused, more grounded, and more driven. Every time you fall and get back up, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than your setbacks. That is the real victory. Because success isn't just about reaching the finish line, it's about who you become along the way. And failure, more than anything else, will help you become that person. Mistakes are uncomfortable. They sting, they bring embarrassment, and they can make you question yourself. But if you look closely, mistakes have a way of pointing to something deeper. Areas of your life that require growth, maturity, or healing. They act like mirrors, reflecting what needs your attention. They are not just signs of poor judgment or lack of preparation. They are signals highlighting emotional blind spots, patterns of behavior, or weaknesses in character that, if addressed, can lead to powerful transformation. When a person makes a mistake in a relationship, maybe they speak without thinking, react impulsively, or prioritize their ego over understanding. It's not just a behavioral error. It's a sign that emotional development is needed. Perhaps there's a lack of self-awareness, empathy, or emotional regulation. That mistake becomes a moment of revelation. It's not just about apologizing. It's about asking, why did I react that way? With what unresolved emotion was driving me? In that moment, you're given the chance to mature, not just in your communication, but in your emotional depth. And that maturity doesn't just benefit you in one relationship, it elevates every connection you have moving forward. The same principle applies to mistakes made in the pursuit of personal goals. Maybe you procrastinated, overestimated your abilities, or made a commitment you couldn't keep. It's easy to feel frustrated, even defeated. But those mistakes are opportunities to examine your patterns. Are you avoiding discomfort? Do you lack discipline in certain areas? Are you making decisions out of fear rather than purpose? Mistakes reveal these patterns, and once you're aware of them, you can begin to change. Growth never happens without awareness, and mistakes have a unique way of making us stop, reflect, and see what we couldn't see before. Mistakes also challenge your belief systems. Sometimes you fail not because your strategy was wrong, but because your mindset was. Maybe you believe that success should come easily, or that effort equals immediate reward. When reality proves otherwise, it forces you to reassess. It humbles you, and in doing so, it invites you to rebuild your thinking on a stronger, more realistic foundation. That shift is a sign of growth. It means you're evolving beyond naive assumptions into a place of deeper wisdom and understanding. Even in moments when your mistake feels like a major setback, the growth it offers is undeniable. Think about people who have gone through financial loss, career failure, or public embarrassment. Many of them will tell you, looking back, that those moments, though painful, were necessary. They had to confront their pride, their lack of preparation, or the ways they were chasing validation rather than purpose. The mistake became a catalyst for personal growth. It brought them face to face with truth. And while truth is often uncomfortable, it is also what sets us free. Mistakes teach resilience too. You learn that it's okay to fall short, to be imperfect, to not have it all figured out. That self-compassion builds inner strength. You start to understand that failure isn't a statement about your worth, it's a stepping stone. And every time you choose to grow instead of giving up, you reinforce the truth that you are capable of evolving. Mistakes then are more than just problems to fix. They are invitations to look deeper, to ask harder questions, and to confront the parts of yourself that comfort and success would never expose. Growth isn't just about moving forward, it's about going inward. It's about developing emotional maturity, mental clarity, and spiritual strength. And the truth is, most people only begin that journey when something goes wrong. So don't run from your mistakes. Let them teach you, let them grow you. Because every misstep, if faced with humility and honesty, is really a message. There's more for you here. Become more. Growth demands patience. And one of the most challenging aspects of growing wiser through mistakes is learning to be patient with yourself. In today's fast-pacing world, we expect quick results and immediate progress. But true growth is often slow, gradual, and sometimes imperceptible at first. When you make a mistake, it can be frustrating because you want to fix everything right away to get it right on the next try. But wisdom isn't something you acquire overnight. It's cultivated over time through repeated effort, reflection, and persistence. Patience means understanding that growth is a process with many stages, not a single event. After a mistake, you might feel motivated to change immediately, but real change requires consistent work. You have to keep practicing new habits, adjusting your mindset, and learning new skills. Sometimes you'll slip back into old patterns, and that's normal. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Patience allows you to be kind to yourself during these setbacks instead of giving up or becoming discouraged. Another aspect of patience is embracing discomfort. Growth often comes from sitting with the uncomfortable feelings that mistakes bring. Guilt, embarrassment, doubt, or fear. Instead of avoiding these emotions or distracting yourself from them, patience helps you face them head on. When you do this, you create space for deeper understanding. You begin to see what triggered the mistake and how to prevent it in the future. This process can't be rushed because it requires self-awareness, reflection, and sometimes even vulnerability. Patience also helps you manage expectations. You may have ambitious goals for yourself, and that's great, but expecting perfection immediately is unrealistic. Mistakes remind you that progress comes in stages. Instead of beating yourself up over what you did wrong, patience encourages you to celebrate small wins. Each step forward, no matter how tiny, is a sign of growth. Over time, those small victories add up to significant change. Patience fosters resilience. When you understand that growth takes time, you're less likely to be discouraged by setbacks. You realize that failure is not the end of the road, but part of the journey. This mindset keeps you moving forward even when progress feels slow or invisible. Resilience grows stronger the more you practice patience, because you learn to endure difficulties without losing hope. Learning to be patient with yourself also opens the door to self-compassion. It's easy to be your harshest critic, especially when you're trying to improve. But patience invites you to treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend. You recognize that making mistakes is part of being human and that growth is a natural, ongoing process. This compassionate approach reduces stress and anxiety, making it easier to stay committed to your personal development. Patience gives you clarity. When you're not rushing, you have the mental space to analyze your mistakes objectively. This clarity helps you identify what needs to change and how to implement those changes effectively. It allows you to set realistic goals and create a plan that fits your unique journey rather than comparing yourself to others. Patience transforms the way you experience growth. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures or reasons to give up, you begin to see them as opportunities that unfold over time. You learn to trust the process and to believe that with persistence, reflection, and self-kindness, you will become wiser and stronger. So, embrace patience as a key part of your growth journey. Allow yourself the time to learn, to heal, and to improve without rushing or judging. Understand that every mistake, every challenge, and every setback is part of the path to becoming the best version of yourself. Growth isn't a race, it's a lifelong journey, and patience is the companion that will help you travel it with grace and resilience. Mistakes have a powerful way of teaching us the value of humility, and humility is essential for growth and wisdom. When you make a mistake, it often challenges your ego, the part of you that wants to appear perfect, competent, and in control. Mistakes expose vulnerabilities and limitations, which can be uncomfortable or even painful to admit, but that discomfort is where humility begins to take root. It is in those moments of acknowledging that you don't have all the answers and that you're still learning that humility grows stronger. Humility allows you to approach your mistakes not as failures that define you, but as opportunities for learning. When you let go of the need to be perfect, you open yourself up to feedback and reflection. Instead of becoming defensive or making excuses, you begin to ask honest questions like, what can I learn from this? How can I improve? And what do I need to change moving forward? This mindset turns mistakes into valuable lessons and stepping stones rather than obstacles. Another important aspect of humility is the recognition that you are not alone in making mistakes. Everyone, no matter how successful or wise they seem, has faced failures and setbacks. When you realize this, it fosters empathy and connection with others. It reminds you that imperfection is part of the human experience and that growth is a universal journey. This understanding helps reduce feelings of shame or isolation that often accompany mistakes, replacing them with compassion for yourself and for others. Humility also encourages a growth mindset, the belief that your abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and learning. When you are humble, you understand that there is always room to grow and that making mistakes is part of the process. This perspective motivates you to keep trying, keep learning, and keep improving, even when things don't go perfectly. It shifts your focus from proving yourself to becoming better. Humility teaches patience with the growth process. It reminds you that wisdom and skill don't happen overnight, but are cultivated over time through experience, reflection, and persistence. When you are humble, you are less likely to become discouraged by setbacks or frustrated by slow progress. Instead, you accept that growth is a journey that requires time and dedication. Humility also opens you up to learning from others. When you acknowledge that you don't know everything, you become more willing to seek advice, listen to feedback, and learn from the experiences of those around you. This openness enriches your understanding and helps you avoid repeating the same mistakes. Importantly, humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less and focusing more on continuous growth and improvement. It allows you to embrace your strengths and weaknesses honestly and work with them constructively. This balanced self-awareness is crucial for making meaningful changes and moving forward. Finally, humility can transform your relationship with failure itself. Instead of fearing mistakes or seeing them as reflections of your worth, you begin to see them as natural and necessary parts of learning. This attitude reduces anxiety and fear, freeing you to take risks, try new things, and push beyond your comfort zone. When you are humble, failure becomes less threatening and more like a guide on your path to wisdom. In summary, humility is a vital ingredient in turning mistakes into opportunities for growth. It helps you face your errors honestly, learn from them, connect with others, and stay committed to your development. Embracing humility allows you to transform setbacks into powerful lessons and to move forward with grace, resilience, and an open heart. Mistakes, when met with humility, become not just moments of failure, but gateways to becoming wiser and stronger. When we make mistakes, one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves is the ability to learn and adapt. This capacity to adjust, to pivot and change course when faced with setbacks is what ultimately drives growth and leads to greater wisdom. The process of learning from mistakes requires a flexible mindset, one that doesn't cling stubbornly to past failures, but instead uses them as stepping stones toward improvement. Learning and adapting starts with reflection. After a mistake, it's important to take a step back and honestly evaluate what happened. What decisions led to this outcome? Were there assumptions made that turned out to be incorrect? Did you overlook any critical details? This reflection phase is crucial because it transforms a simple failure into a meaningful experience. Without it, mistakes risk being repeated and growth remains stagnant. Adaptation means taking the insights gained from reflection and applying them going forward. It requires a willingness to change behavior, adjust strategies, or develop new skills. For example, if you failed to meet a deadline because of poor time management, learning and adapting might involve creating a more structured schedule or prioritizing tasks differently. The key is not just recognizing what went wrong, but actively doing something different to prevent the same mistake. A challenge many face is the fear of change. It's natural to want to stick with what's comfortable or familiar, even if it's not working well. Learning and adapting, however, demands courage. The courage to step out of your comfort zone and try new approaches. This courage grows stronger the more you practice it, creating a positive cycle of growth. Adaptation also involves resilience. Sometimes, even after making adjustments, results don't improve immediately. It might take several attempts to find what works. Being able to keep going despite setbacks is a crucial part of learning from mistakes. Resilience turns failure into a process of trial and error, rather than a final verdict on your abilities. Another important aspect is being open to feedback. Often, others can see things from a different perspective and offer valuable insights. Being receptive to constructive criticism is part of learning and adapting effectively. It requires humility and a genuine desire to improve. Feedback can highlight blind spots you didn't notice and help guide your next steps. Learning and adapting also teaches creativity. When a certain path doesn't work, it forces you to think outside the box and explore alternative solutions. This creative problem solving strengthens your ability to handle future challenges and fosters innovation. Mistakes in this way become catalysts for fresh ideas and new ways of thinking. Moreover, the process of learning and adapting nurtures confidence. While it may seem counterintuitive, embracing mistakes and using them to improve builds self-trust. Each time you successfully adjust and overcome a setback, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of growth and change. This confidence motivates you to take on bigger challenges, knowing that mistakes are simply part of the journey. It's also essential to recognize that learning and adapting is not a linear path. Growth often happens in cycles, with progress followed by setbacks and new insights. Being patient and persistent through these cycles is what ultimately leads to mastery and wisdom. Ultimately, learning and adapting from mistakes shifts your relationship with failure. Instead of fearing errors, you begin to see them as invaluable experiences that contribute to your personal and professional development. This shift empowers you to take risks, try new things, and embrace challenges with an open mind. By consistently reflecting on mistakes, applying lessons, embracing feedback, and maintaining resilience, you create a dynamic process of growth. This process transforms setbacks into opportunities for deeper understanding and continuous improvement. Learning and adapting is not just about fixing what went wrong, it's about evolving into a wiser, stronger version of yourself. Every mistake then becomes a powerful teacher on your path to success. Mistakes often act as mirrors, reflecting our weaknesses and gaps in knowledge, but they also illuminate areas where we can develop new skills. Each mistake is a signal that something in our approach, mindset, or execution needs refinement. The process of acquiring new skills through mistakes is essential to personal and professional growth because it transforms abstract knowledge into practical experience. When you make a mistake, you are given a unique opportunity to identify what specific skills you lack or need to improve. For instance, if you consistently miss deadlines, it might highlight a need to develop better time management or organizational skills. If a communication breakdown causes a project to fail, it may point toward the need to improve interpersonal or listening skills. By paying attention to these signals, mistakes guide you toward targeted learning that can have a profound impact on your capabilities. Learning new skills from mistakes involves a mindset of curiosity and openness. Instead of reacting with frustration or shame, approach mistakes as experiments that provide data about your current abilities. Ask yourself, what skills would have helped me avoid this mistake? Or what can I learn that will prepare me better next time? This inquiry invites a proactive attitude toward growth rather than a passive acceptance of failure. Acquiring new skills is a practical way to prevent repeating the same mistakes. For example, if a mistake reveals a lack of technical expertise, investing time in training or practice directly addresses that gap. If emotional reactions to stressful situations lead to poor decisions, developing emotional intelligence or stress management techniques can improve future outcomes. Each skill you build strengthens your foundation and equips you to handle similar challenges more effectively. More importantly, mistakes accelerate the learning process by providing immediate, real-world feedback. Unlike theoretical learning, which can sometimes feel disconnected from reality, lessons learned through mistakes are vivid and memorable. The discomfort or consequences of an error make the lesson stick, making it more likely that you will remember and apply the new skill in the future. Mistakes also encourage a hands-on approach to skill development. They push you to step outside of your comfort zone and practice skills in challenging, often high-stakes environments. This experiential learning is far more impactful than passive study because it forces active problem solving and adaptation. You learn not just the theory behind a skill, but how to use it effectively under pressure. Another important element is perseverance. Learning new skills through mistakes is rarely easy or quick. It requires dedication, repeated effort, and sometimes multiple attempts before mastery is achieved. The process might involve trial and error, seeking mentorship, or practicing deliberately. The key is to maintain a growth mindset that views skill acquisition as a journey rather than an immediate fix. Moreover, acquiring new skills through mistakes builds confidence. Every time you overcome a challenge by applying a newly learned skill, you reinforce your self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to succeed. This growing confidence empowers you to take on bigger challenges and continue expanding your skill set. Mistakes also foster adaptability. In today's rapidly changing world, the ability to learn new skills quickly and apply them is invaluable. Mistakes highlight areas where you need to be flexible and willing to change your approach. This adaptability not only helps you recover from errors, but also prepares you for future uncertainties and opportunities. It's important to recognize that skill acquisition through mistakes often leads to unexpected benefits. As you work to improve in one area, you may develop related skills or uncover hidden strengths. For example, learning better communication to resolve a mistake might also enhance your leadership abilities. The process of growing through mistakes can thus create a ripple effect that broadens your overall competence. The habit of learning new skills from mistakes creates a culture of continuous improvement. Instead of fearing errors or avoiding challenges, you embrace them as natural parts of growth. This proactive attitude helps you stay curious, motivated, and engaged in lifelong learning. Mistakes serve as powerful catalysts for skill development. They pinpoint areas where growth is needed, encourage hands-on learning, and build confidence and adaptability. By viewing mistakes as opportunities to acquire new skills, you transform setbacks into stepping stones toward greater competence and wisdom. This mindset not only helps you overcome current challenges, but also prepares you for a future of ongoing success and fulfillment. Mistakes are not just individual events, but essential parts of the ongoing journey toward self-discovery and growth. When we make mistakes, they challenge us to look inward and engage in deep self-reflection. This process of examining our own thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and motivations is critical for turning errors into meaningful learning experiences. Without reflection, mistakes risk being superficial or repetitive, but with it, they become powerful catalysts for personal transformation. Self-reflection after a mistake involves honestly asking ourselves difficult questions. What caused this error? Were there assumptions or biases influencing my decisions? Did I act out of fear, impatience, or lack of knowledge? How did my emotions affect my actions? This kind of introspection helps uncover not only the external factors, but also the internal dynamics that contributed to the mistake. By understanding these layers, we gain insight into ourselves that goes far beyond the surface. One of the most valuable outcomes of self-reflection is increased self-awareness. This means recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, your patterns of thinking and behavior, and how you typically respond to challenges or setbacks. Self-awareness allows you to see where you may have blind spots or habitual reactions that lead to mistakes. Once these are identified, you have the power to change them consciously rather than continuing unconsciously on autopilot. Self-reflection also helps develop emotional intelligence, which is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and relate effectively to others. Mistakes often trigger strong emotions like frustration, guilt, or defensiveness. Reflecting on these feelings helps you process them constructively instead of letting them control your reactions. This emotional insight enables you to respond more calmly and thoughtfully when facing similar situations in the future. Moreover, reflection fosters accountability. When you take the time to examine your role in a mistake without blaming others or external circumstances, you demonstrate personal responsibility. This accountability is a key ingredient for growth because it empowers you to take action to improve rather than feeling stuck or helpless. Owning your mistakes means you are also owning your ability to change and grow. The process of self-reflection is enhanced by creating space for quiet and focus. In our fast-paced lives, it can be difficult to pause and really think deeply about our experiences. Practices like journaling, meditation, or simply setting aside time to review your actions and feelings can facilitate this reflective process. Regular reflection becomes a habit that supports ongoing learning from every mistake. Another important aspect is the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Reflection can reveal flaws or weaknesses that we might prefer to ignore. Yet it is precisely this courage to confront reality honestly that leads to genuine growth. Avoiding or denying mistakes only delays progress, while embracing them with openness leads to transformation. Self-reflection also strengthens decision-making skills. By understanding past mistakes in detail, you gain valuable knowledge that informs future choices. You learn to anticipate potential pitfalls, evaluate options more carefully, and act with greater wisdom. Reflection turns mistakes into lessons that sharpen your judgment and improve your ability to navigate complexity. Reflection nurtures humility. Recognizing your imperfections and areas for improvement fosters a mindset of continuous growth rather than fixed ability. This humility makes you more receptive to learning from others and more adaptable to change. It encourages collaboration and openness rather than defensiveness and isolation. Reflection deepens your sense of purpose as well. When you understand the underlying reasons behind your mistakes, you can align your actions more closely with your values and goals. This alignment increases motivation and helps you stay committed to your personal and professional growth, even when faced with setbacks. The habit of self-reflection creates a feedback loop that supports lifelong learning. Each mistake becomes a source of wisdom that informs your next steps, creating a cycle of continuous improvement. This ongoing process helps you evolve not only in skills and knowledge, but also in character and resilience. Self-reflection is an indispensable tool for learning from mistakes. It transforms errors from mere failures into profound opportunities for self-discovery, emotional growth, accountability, and improved decision-making. By cultivating the habit of honest and deep reflection, you harness the full potential of your mistakes to become wiser, stronger, and more purposeful in every aspect of life. The connection between mistakes and humility is one of the most powerful lessons in personal growth. When we make a mistake, especially one that exposes a flaw in our character, knowledge, or decision-making, it strips away illusions of perfection and forces us to confront our limitations. This confrontation is uncomfortable, but deeply necessary. It is in these moments that humility is born, not as a weakness, but as a strength that grounds us, softens our pride, and opens the door to true wisdom. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself more accurately. Mistakes help recalibrate this self-perception. Often, when things are going well, we may develop an inflated sense of our abilities, becoming overconfident or dismissive of feedback. But when we stumble, we are reminded that we do not have all the answers, that there's always more to learn, and that we are just as capable of error as anyone else. This awareness humbles us in a constructive way. It pulls us out of the trap of ego and puts us back in touch with reality. One of the most important effects of humility, developed through mistakes, is the willingness to learn. A humble person doesn't feel the need to pretend they already know everything. Instead, they become teachable. They listen more, ask questions, and seek guidance without shame. This openness accelerates growth because it removes the barriers that pride often puts up. When you're humble, you accept correction more easily and you view feedback as a gift, not a threat. You realize that others may have insights you lack, and that learning from them doesn't diminish your worth, it enhances it. Mistakes also teach us empathy through humility. When we make errors and feel the consequences, we become more understanding of others when they fall short. We become less judgmental, more patient, and more compassionate. This shift in perspective deepens our relationships and strengthens our character. We begin to treat others with the same grace and kindness we hope to receive when we make mistakes. That empathy, born of shared human imperfection, fosters unity rather than division. Humility also encourages resilience. Instead of collapsing under the weight of a mistake, a humble person sees it as part of the process. They don't need to protect an image of being flawless. They accept failure as a step on the journey. This acceptance doesn't mean complacency. It means they can recover more quickly with less internal resistance. They're able to say, I was wrong, and then ask, what can I do better next time? This kind of humility fuels perseverance because it doesn't waste energy on defending the ego. It channels energy into constructive change. Another benefit of humility through mistakes is the impact it has on leadership and influence. People are naturally drawn to leaders who are authentic, self-aware, and honest about their shortcomings. When you admit your mistakes openly and take responsibility for them, you earn trust. You set an example of integrity and courage. You show that growth is more important than saving face. In this way, your humility doesn't diminish your influence, it magnifies it. Humility keeps you grounded even as you succeed. As you grow wiser from your mistakes, as your skills improve and your confidence increases, humility ensures that you remain balanced. It reminds you that your progress is not just the result of your own effort, but also the product of support, grace, and continued learning. It protects you from arrogance and complacency, keeping you open to ongoing development. Every mistake is not just a lesson in what not to do, it is a lesson in who we are becoming. And one of the most vital qualities we can cultivate in that becoming is humility. Humility keeps us learning, keeps us connected, and keeps us human. It is the quiet strength that grows out of our flaws and failures, guiding us gently toward wisdom. When we embrace humility through the lens of our mistakes, we don't just grow, we evolve.